The dense forest loomed before them, a seemingly endless expanse of towering trees that stretched towards the sky like colossal pillars. The group of friends, all seasoned campers, made their way through the underbrush, their laughter and banter carrying on the wind. They had been coming to this spot for years, and it never failed to impress. As they arrived at the campsite, they quickly set to work, pitching their tents and starting a fire. The smell of sizzling burgers and hot dogs wafted through the air, mingling with the scent of pine and damp earth. The group consisted of 5 friends: Alex, a die-hard sci-fi enthusiast; Jack, a skeptic; Mike, a pragmatist; Tom, a comedian; and Ryan, a philosopher. They had all been friends since college and had made it a point to take a camping trip together at least once a year. As the night wore on, they sat around the campfire, swapping stories and drinking beer. Alex, ever the believer, brought up the topic of alien life. "I'm telling you guys, we're not alone in the universe. There's gotta be other life out there." Jack snorted. "Why would we want to meet aliens anyway? We've got everything we need right here on Earth." Mike nodded in agreement. "Yeah, and even if we did encounter aliens, what's to say they'd be friendly?" Tom chimed in. "Or maybe they'd be like the aliens from that one movie, the ones with the anal probes." The group erupted into laughter, but Ryan, ever the philosopher, brought the conversation back on track. "But what if we're not just talking about intelligent life? What if we're talking about life in general? The universe is so vast, it's arrogant to think we're the only ones who exist." Alex nodded vigorously. "Exactly. And I think we're just starting to scratch the surface of understanding the universe. We've got exoplanets, wormholes, and who knows what else waiting to be discovered." As the night wore on, the conversation turned to the topic of stargazing. The group lay back on their sleeping bags, gazing up at the star-filled sky. The stars twinkled like diamonds against the blackness, and the sound of crickets provided a soothing background hum. Eventually, the group decided to call it a night, and they retired to their tents. Alex, still buzzing from the conversation, couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the universe than what they could see. As he drifted off to sleep, he felt a sense of wonder and awe wash over him. It was then that he had the dream. In the dream, he found himself standing in a lush, green forest, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to stretch on forever. A figure appeared before him, a woman with skin like alabaster and hair like silver. Her eyes sparkled like diamonds, and her lips were full and inviting. "Hello, Alex," she said, her voice like music. "I am Ishina. I've been watching you. You have a curious mind, and a sense of wonder that is rare in this universe." Alex felt a sense of trepidation, but Ishina's smile put him at ease. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am a member of an ancient civilization," she replied, "and I'm here to offer you a gift. I have a harem, a place of beauty and wonder, where your every need will be taken care of. Would you like to join me?" Alex's mind reeled. A harem? With a woman as beautiful as Ishina? He felt a surge of excitement and anticipation. "What do I have to do?" he asked. Ishina smiled. "All you have to do is call out my name 3 times before you go to sleep tomorrow night. Say, 'Ishina, Ishina, Ishina,' and I will come for you." Alex felt a sense of euphoria wash over him. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. He nodded, and Ishina vanished, leaving him feeling elated and excited. The next morning, Alex woke up feeling refreshed and invigorated. He couldn't stop thinking about the dream and the offer Ishina had made. He decided to share it with his friends, hoping they would understand. As they sat around the campfire, Alex recounted the dream in vivid detail. His friends listened intently, their expressions ranging from skepticism to amusement. "Dude, it was just a dream. Jack said, chuckling. "You've been reading too many sci-fi novels." But Alex was insistent. "It felt real, guys. I'm telling you, it was like I was really there." Mike shook his head. "Even if it was real, which it's not, do you really think you'd want to join some alien harem?" "I don't know, man," Alex said, shrugging. "It's just something about her, about the way she made me feel. I feel like I have to try it, you know?" His friends exchanged skeptical glances, but Alex didn't care. He was convinced that Ishina was real and that she was waiting for him. As the day went on, Alex became more and more withdrawn. He stopped participating in the group's activities and instead spent his time sitting by the campfire, staring into the flames. "Hey man, what's wrong?" Ryan asked, sitting down beside him. "I just can't shake the feeling that I'm meant to do this," Alex said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I feel like I'm being called to something bigger than myself." Ryan nodded sympathetically. "I get it, man, but you have to be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with here." Alex nodded, but he knew that he had already made up his mind. As the sun began to set, he stood up and walked away from the campsite, disappearing into the trees. "Alex, wait," his friends called out, but he didn't look back. As he walked, the trees seemed to close in around him, casting long, ominous shadows on the ground. Alex felt a shiver run down his spine, but he kept going, driven by a sense of determination. Finally, he came to a clearing, and in the center of it, he saw a figure waiting for him. It was Ishina, just as beautiful and alluring as she had been in his dream. "Alex," she said, her voice like music, "I've been waiting for you." Alex felt a surge of excitement, and he took a step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "Ishina," he said, his voice trembling, "I'm here. I'm ready." Ishina smiled, and she reached out a hand, beckoning him to come closer. As Alex took another step forward, his friends back at the campsite heard a strange noise, like a faint humming in the distance. They exchanged worried glances, and then they were on their feet, running through the trees, calling out Alex's name. But it was too late. Alex had already disappeared, taken by Ishina to a place beyond their understanding. The next morning, the group woke up to find Alex's tent empty, his gear still neatly packed beside it. They searched the campsite, but there was no sign of him. "Guys, I think we need to get out of here," Jack said, his voice shaking. "Something's not right." The others nodded in agreement, and then, just as they were about to leave the campsite, they heard a faint whisper carried on the wind. "Ashina, Ashina, Ashina." It was Alex's voice, and it was calling out to the unknown, to the mysterious and beautiful woman who had taken him away from them. The group stopped in their tracks, frozen in horror, as the whisper seemed to grow louder, more insistent. They tried to move their legs, but they would not work, as if someone or something was keeping them in place. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. Then, everything went black, and everyone had lost consciousness. As the sun rose over the campsite, the group of friends slowly stirred from their slumber. They had all been shaken by the strange events of the previous night, and many of them were still trying to process what had happened. As they emerged from their tents, they looked around at each other, wondering if the whole thing had just been some kind of shared dream. Had Alex really disappeared, or had they all just imagined it? But as they approached Alex's tent, their doubts were quickly dispelled. The tent was empty, and the entrance was open, flapping gently in the breeze. "Guys, look at this," Jack said, his voice trembling as he pointed to the walls of the tent. The others gathered around, and they saw that the walls of the tent were covered in strange symbols, burnt into the fabric as if with a branding iron. The symbols seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and the group could feel a dark and foreboding presence emanating from them. "What the—" Mike trailed off, his voice lost for words. "This is not good," Ryan said, his eyes scanning the surrounding area nervously. "We need to get out of here now." The group quickly agreed, and they began to pack up their gear, eager to leave the campsite and the strange symbols behind. As they walked, they couldn't help but wonder what had happened to Alex. Had he really been taken by Ishina, or had he just wandered off into the woods? And what did the symbols mean? Were they some kind of message left by Ishina or whatever entity had taken Alex? As they finished packing up, the group took one last look around the campsite, searching for any sign of Alex or what might have happened to him. But there was nothing, just the empty tent and the ominous symbols. "Let's get out of here," Jack said, his voice firm. "We can figure out what happened to Alex later. Right now, let's just get as far away from this place as possible." The others nodded in agreement, and they set off through the woods, leaving the campsite and the mystery of Alex's disappearance behind. They couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that unblinking eyes were trained on them from the trees. They quickened their pace, eager to escape the oppressive atmosphere of the woods and find their way back to civilization. But as they emerged from the trees and saw the sunlit landscape stretching out before them, they couldn't help but wonder if they had really left the darkness behind, or if it was still out there, waiting for them. The group walked in silence for a while, lost in their own thoughts and fears. Finally, Ryan spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you guys think we'll ever see Alex again?" The others looked at each other, unsure of what to say. They had all been friends with Alex for so long, and the thought of never seeing him again was almost too much to bear. "I don't know," Jack said finally, his voice cracking with emotion. "But we have to hold on to hope. We have to believe that he's still out there, somewhere." The others nodded in agreement, and they continued on their way, holding on to the hope that they would one day see their friend again. Everyone couldn't shake the feeling that Alex's dream was very real. The friends of Alex raised the alert with the local authorities, leaving out the parts of aliens and weird occurrences, as they did not want to seem crazy and be shunned by the townsfolk. As weeks turned into months, the search continued, with no results, and was eventually called off. The friends finally accepting that maybe Alex is no longer on this world, but actually with Ishina and having the time of his life with that harem that he told them about, living it up in the most fantastical way possible, all raised their drinks to the sky in a final salute. I walked alongside Ishina. I couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder and awe at the sights that surrounded me. We were walking through a lush, vibrant forest, with towering trees that seemed to stretch up to the sky and flowers that bloomed in every color of the rainbow. Ishina smiled at me, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "What do you think?" she asked, her voice like music. I shook my head, trying to find the words to express the emotions that were swirling inside me. It's incredible," I stammered. "I've never seen anything like it." Ishina laughed, a throaty, seductive sound. "This is just the beginning," she said. "I have so much more to show you." As we walked, the landscape shifted and changed, revealing new and wondrous sights at every turn. We walked through fields of crystal where the ground sparkled like diamonds beneath our feet. We walked through cities of gold where the buildings shone like the sun. And we walked through gardens of paradise where the flowers bloomed with a scent that was like nothing I had ever smelled before. With each new sight, my excitement grew. I felt like a kid in a candy store, my eyes wide with wonder and my heart racing with excitement. "What do you think?" Ishina asked again, her voice teasing. I turned to her, my eyes shining with enthusiasm. "I think it's amazing," I said. "I've never seen anything like it." Ishina smiled, her eyes glinting with amusement. You could have a share in all of this, she said. You could be a part of my kingdom and rule alongside me. My heart skipped a beat at the prospect. Me? A ruler of this magical kingdom? It was almost too much to comprehend. But then, Yashina's expression changed. Her smile grew wider, and her eyes seemed to gleam with a sinister light. There is just one condition, she said, her voice dripping with honey. I felt a shiver run down my spine, but I couldn't help but ask, "What's that?" Ishina's smile grew even wider. You would have to be a part of my harem, she said. You would have to serve me and cater to my every need. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. A harem? Server? I didn't understand. What do you mean? I asked, my voice shaking. Yashina's eyes seemed to gleam with amusement. You would be a human slave, she said. You would be mine to command, and you would do my bidding. I felt a wave of horror wash over me. A slave? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But Ishina just laughed, a cold, cruel sound. Don't worry, she said. You will be well taken care of. You will be pampered and indulged, and you will want for nothing. I shook my head, trying to clear the cobwebs. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had thought that I was going to be a partner, a ruler of this magical kingdom. But instead, I was going to be a slave. I felt a surge of anger and resentment, but Ishina just smiled again. Don't worry, she said. You will learn to love your new role. You will learn to serve me and to obey my every command. I felt a shiver run down my spine, but I knew that I had to try and escape. I had to find a way out of this magical kingdom and back to my own world. But as I looked around, I realized that I was trapped. I was surrounded by Ishina's guards, and I had no way of escaping. I was a slave, and I was at Ishina's mercy. How can I warn more humans to stay away from this honeypot trap that was dripping with alien deception? Alex said, crying out in frustration. As he worked in this new life of servitude, he would never stop searching for a way out. Back to Earth. Somehow, some way.